Hello, I'm Romonica Jones, your licensed counselor. How are you today? Thank you all so much for tuning in. We have a great message. I am so excited to deliver it to you. But before we do that, let's, what some people say, pay some bills or take care of some business. First of all, our official website is www.liveblessedblog.com. Weebly, that's WEEBLY.com, and that's only for those of you who don't know. I am Romonica Jones. Once again, I am your licensed counselor, and my motto is matters of the heart matters to me. Just also want to let you know the motto of the blog is we respond to others positively. We believe in uplifting, and our motto is empowering. So welcome home. We're going to jump right into the message today. The message title is Leadership. Do you have it? So let's get into that. First, we're going to go into the word so we can get the scripture backing. And we are in Exodus, and it is chapter 24. And we're going to start at verse 9. We're going to jump right in. So if you're ready to roll, I'm ready to roll. Let's do it. The word says, Then went up Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, and they was under his feet, as it were a paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and did eat and drink. And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law, and commitment, and commandments, which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua and Moses went up into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us, until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. And if any man have any matters to do, let him come up unto them. Let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount, and the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai. And the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. We're going to stop there, and that is at verse 18. Once again, Exodus 24, that is 9 through 18. You can read that whole story in your spare time. Moses was a leader in the Bible, and he led the children of Israel out of slavery, out of bondage that lasted for 400 years. And so we're going to talk about leadership today. Even in the word here, the Lord was establishing leadership when he said in verse 12, And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law, and commandments, which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. Well, who is them? Them are the people that Moses was called to lead. Them is the children of Israel. And to all of our leaders, you also have a them. If you are a teacher, you have a them being students. If you are a pastor, you have a them being congregation. If you are head of your household, you have them maybe being children. If you are a counselor, you have them as far as the clients that you see or the people that you counsel. Everybody have leadership opportunity. But it is very rare that we take advantage of that leadership opportunity, because sometimes we don't necessarily see ourselves as a leadership. You might be as a leader. You might be a janitor at the school, and you're thinking, I'm waiting for my opportunity to be promoted or to be looked at in a light where I can do more. But as leaders, we must start where we are. Even if we are a student, we can be a leader in that classroom. We can come to class dressed professional. We can make sure we get to class on time. We can answer questions if none of the other students are willing to answer them. Even if you are a member in a congregation, you can be a leader just by volunteering in other ministries within the church, helping out, whether it's being an usher, being in the choir, help cleaning up the church. Even at whatever job that you work at, you can be a leader. And taking on that leadership role means that it calls you to a higher height than the expectations of them. Because you cannot be amongst them and then also lead them. The Bible says that God have called us out from amongst them that we were. He's called us out from amongst them. So he's called us out from amongst them so that we can lead them. You cannot be them and also lead them. Okay? So when we say that God have called us out to a higher place, we can also reference this in the Bible. Because God, the God of all earth, the God of all creation, came down to visit the children of Israel. And when he came down to visit the children of Israel, there was, in verse 24, chapter 1, and he said unto Moses, Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. So God called a small group of people. Here it looks like approximately 74 leaders he called. When God got ready to reveal his glory, to reveal his presence, he did not show up amongst them. He showed up amongst the 74 that he called out. And then even amongst those groups of leaders, he called out only 2 to go higher with him. And it says, and Moses in verse 13 rose up, and his minister Joshua. And Moses went up into the mount of God and stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights. So even out of the large group of leaders, approximately 74, only 2 of them were able to see God and spend time with God, not necessarily see him, but go into the presence of God on the mount of God. And so as leaders, we have to be elevated. And it says many are called, but few are chosen. And in order to be those chosen few, you have to have qualities and discipline, and you have to have things in place such as the law, the commandment. You have to abide by those things so that in those things will separate you from amongst them. You cannot come in late and dress how you want and wear your feelings on your sleeves and talk to people however your emotions feel like it just because you're having a bad day, and then call yourself a leader amongst them. You have to look different than them. When Moses got down out of that mount, the glory of the God rested upon Moses. When people saw him, they saw the glory of the Lord. So he did not even look like them. He did not carry himself like them. If you want God to use you, and if you want to be blessed by God and receive your inheritance here on this earth, if you want to be a leader and be used, you have to elevate yourself. How do we elevate ourselves? We elevate ourselves by separating ourselves. How do we separate ourselves? Number one, we have about 5 points that we're going to cover with leadership. Do you have it? And those 5 points are, in order to elevate yourself, you have to be in tune with God. Okay? Moses did not go to heaven, did not go to God and say, well, God, these are the rules that I'm coming up with. I don't think people should talk back to authority. I think people should do this. He did not come to God and put demands on God. He came to God with a listening ear, and he allowed the Lord to tell him what laws and what commandments and what rules to bring back to the people. Okay, so we have to be in tune with God, which also means sometimes you have to follow that gut feeling. Even if it doesn't look right, even if it doesn't sound right, follow that inner voice. And if that inner voice brings you peace, or if it brings you the answer to the question that you were looking for, follow that. And if you have a question that you don't know the answer to, seek the Lord for it. We have to be in tune with God because we don't know what the elements look like. When we become leaders, we don't know if people will rise up against us or what attacks the enemy has waiting for us. But God is able to prepare us for those attacks so that we will not get caught off guard, and so that we can withstand any storm that the devil attempts to create. But if we are not in tune with God, then any storm, any way that the wind blow can throw us off of our path. So we must be in tune with him so that we can know what the environment looks like, what the areas that we need to correct, or what things may come out of nowhere when we least expect it. Another reason why we should be in tune with God, because God knows us more than we know ourselves. God created us. He knows our weaknesses as leaders. He knows if we have a problem with discipline, if we're late all the time, if we wear our feelings on our sleeves, if we're easily frustrated. He knows all of those things, all of those weaknesses that could jeopardize our leadership. And as leaders, the mission is to never abandon your leadership. When you gossip about people that you're leading, you are abandoning your leadership. When you're not willing to sacrifice your desires for the betterment of the whole. When you're all self-serving, looking for yourself, selfish reasons, you're not able to lead the people if you yourself is so thirsty and in need and being too needy. Because as a leader, you have to be a giver. Leadership is not about what the people can do for you. Leadership is about what can you do for the people so that God's will might be done. The Our Father prayer says, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed will be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. And that's what leadership is about. Leadership is about helping to establish the kingdom of God here on this earth so that his will may be done. Not your will, his will. Leadership is not to satisfy your financial need or your emotional need. Because the next point we're going to go into is that you cannot be called to lead people that you have a need from. Okay? So you cannot lead where you have a thirst or need. All right? And when you do that, you have to be very in tune with God. Because number one, all of our needs are to get met through the Lord. And God will place on people's heart to bless us. He will open up doors for us. But even as a minister or as a pastor, if you have a thirst or dire need to get your finances met, you have to watch that, because you don't want to place too heavy, a burden on the people to meet that need, because what we have to do is depend on God to meet that need. And we have to trust that he will lay it on people's hearts, or he will open up doors and open up opportunities that he will reveal to us to satisfy that need. Okay. And even as ministers or as leaders, if I have a need to be accepted by you, then I'm not going to lead to the full capacity, because I don't want to say anything to step on your toes, which means that I'm going to cater to you rather than lead you. And Moses had to lead the children of Israel out of slavery, out of bondage. He had to lead them through the wilderness. He could not cater to them and lead them. And even if they are catering to the children of Israel, or if you are catering to the people that you're called to lead, you are catering in an effort to lead. You're not catering so that your needs can get met. And that's the difference. If you're catering to them, it is an effort to lead them to get the will of God done. It is not to cater to them so that they may fulfill your need or fulfill your void. So with that being said, we have to be in tune with the will of God, because God will show us where we are vulnerable at. He will show us you have a fear of rejection. So how can I use you to speak to the people if you're so afraid that they will reject you? How can I use you to lead the people if you need their affirmation, you need their approval? All of those needs have to get met through God. And that's where our healing process comes into play. We cannot go before the people unhealed, because being unhealed, it takes us away from our leadership. We have to elevate. We cannot be petty. We cannot give word for word. There's going to be times where people step on your toes or they'll talk about you, and you're going to have a thick enough skin to say, I'm going to ignore that because God has elevated me into leadership, and I'm not going to let a small comment make me abandon my leadership and cause me to go back down amongst them, to respond to them on their level. As leaders, we have to stay elevated. Even as leaders, there's going to be some punches, there's going to be some blows, but we cannot give the people our frustration. Frustration is meant to give and talk it over with the Lord. So when you're leading your children and you're tired and you're frustrated because you've been at work all day long and they need your help with the homework, you have to hold that frustration. You cannot take it out on the people, because that will hurt them. It will hurt them even more so because they look up to you. So when you snatch the paperwork from your children, or when you gossip about that employee that works, underneath you, and you're tired of having to go back and make corrections, and that gossip gets back to them, or when you get an attitude with them and tell them, I've showed you this before, I'm tired of keep showing you to them, that is hurting the body. It is hurting the people, and it is stagnating the will of God. And as we stated before, leaders are put here so that to help establish the kingdom of God here on earth, so that his will can be done. So as leaders, we have to hold that frustration in. Whether it's with marriages, you are a leader in your marriage. Of course, your husband is the head, but you are the leading wife. Or if you are the husband, then you are the head of the marriage. So you're the leading husband, you're the leading man, you're the leading person in your family. Okay, if you have extended family, some people might be saved, some people may not be saved, some people might need help in, establishing their career. They might look up to you, so you're the leader in your family. Kids that need advice, they're teenagers, they're going through things now that you went through several years ago. That is an opportunity to lead. But even when things are not going your way, or it's not going the way you thought it would go, you have to hold that frustration and continue to lead and feed the people. So if that child is having a problem with their homework, you go back and you say, look, I've showed you this before. You're going to do this the same way. You're going to do this math homework. It's the same way. It might be different numbers. It might be a different problem, but it's the same formula. So get down on their level. Let's write this formula out so that with each question that you do, you can go back to that formula. You have to be in tune with God, because God gave Moses the law and the commandment to give to the people. And the law and the commandment was basically instructions. So we have to be in tune with God so that he can give us the instructions that we need to lead the people that he has called us to lead. A question that the Holy Spirit put on my mind, he stated to me, he said, what if certain relationships or certain friendships depicted your leadership? What would that leadership look like? And I want to challenge you with that question. Your relationship with your kids, if that was a reflection of your leadership, how you talk to them, how you groom them, your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your co-workers, your relationship at your job, at your business, at your church, with your friends, with your extended family members, if those relationships depicted your leadership, what would that leadership look like? And I want you all to take that back for homework, but we are going to keep on moving. In leadership, you should definitely be led and be called to the people that you are going to be leading. Be called to the assignment that you're going to be fulfilling. Be called to the project or the ministry that you have connected and attached yourself to. Because when you are called to something, that goes into our third step, commitment. When you are called to something, you have a high level of commitment for it. Okay? When you are called, you have a high level of commitment. And when you have a high level of commitment, you're able to withstand the storms that comes with the assignment. You're able to withstand the storms that comes with the calling and the leadership. Because leaderships take a lot of blows. Even as parents, you're going to take blows, financial blows, or responsibility, cooking, keeping the house clean, setting the rules, setting the structures. And then when you set the rules and the structures, you have to be leader enough to follow it. This is no longer a world where people do as you say and not as you do. So if you are the director, or you're the supervisor, or you're the business owner, if you expect people to get their work in on time and to get to work on time, then you have to set that example. So, we ask that you be in tune with God. That is one. Be called to the assignment, whether it's marriage, whether it's family, whether it's job. Be called to that assignment. Be called to that be called to that leadership opportunity, and be committed to it. Be committed to it enough to follow the laws and the commandments and the instructions that God have given you to give to them. Okay? And point 4, which I did get ahead of myself, but I am glad we covered it. Point 4 is hold your frustrations. Okay? That is the biggest issue, because with frustration, a lot of times, we there is also connected with that an art of confrontation. You know, when things are not going your way and you have to talk to one of the kids, or, you know, pull your wife to the side, or even talk to your coworker and just say, I don't really like the way you handled me in front of the other workers here. You know, or I don't like it when mom asks you to wash the clothes and you didn't do what I say do, because that made me feel like you completely disrespected, you know, my wishes or what I asked you to do. So with that, we have to master the art of confrontation. We cannot go and abuse our authority and be controlling and talk loud and put our frustrations out on the people, because the people are not able to carry leadership frustrations. If they were able to carry leadership frustrations, then they would what? Be a leader. So those frustrations have to be held in. And the way to do that is give yourself time before you confront one of your students, or confront, you know, another member, or confront a coworker. Time gives you the best resolution. When you're quick-natured or quick-tempered, yes, you're going to resolve the issue, or the issue, you might actually worsen the issue when you're quick-tempered. But you will find a solution when you are quick-tempered, but it won't be the best solution when you're quick-tempered. It's just like cooking pot roast. You know, if we have any cookers in the house, I know I'm a cooker. I'm in the kitchen and I don't mind. But if we have any cookers in the house, you know that when you make pot roast, it is good when you season it and put the gravy on top and put it in the oven and put the foil on top and you cook it, you know, for maybe 2 hours or maybe 3 hours on low, depending on how big the pot roast is. It's good. But it is great when you put those seasons in it the night before and you give it time to sit and marinate, and then you put the foil on top and put it in the oven. So in dealing with your frustrations as well as with the art of confrontation, time is going to give you the better solution. Sit on it, rest on it. And in that, when you do go to confront, never attack the person or their personality. Never say, I find you to be agitating. I find you to be annoying. Always say, even if you feel that you know not to say it as a leader, but that's just an example. But always say, look, it really bothers me when you do this behavior. You want to separate the behavior from the person, because just because they do something that may not be right, it does not make them a bad person. So you don't want them to internalize their behavior with who they are as an individual. Okay? Because there might be a time in your life where you told a lie, you know, and no sin is smaller or bigger than the other one. Sin is sin. But if you told a lie 10 years ago, does that make you a liar today? And that's the same way with the people that you lead. You know, if they come in late, you know, all the time, does that make them a slacker? Does it make them lazy? Does it make them undisciplined? And that's why we have to be in tune with God, because it's so easy to point out other people's weaknesses, but we have to be in tune with God so that He can reveal to us our weaknesses so we can work on it. Because as leaders, we have to take responsibility for where the ship sails. And if the ship is going in a direction that is wrong, that is often a reflection of our leadership and not just the person or their behavior. So the art of confrontation will have us to, first of all, utilize the excellency of time. And second, it will allow us to, it will provoke us to separate the person's behavior from them. So we don't say that they're lazy or they're undisciplined. We will say, look, you are often, you come to work a lot of times and I'm seeing a pattern, a behavior pattern of tardiness with you. But you never connect those behaviors, those negative behaviors to the person, because that can create resentment. It can ruin a friendship. It can ruin a relationship. It can ruin one of your best workers who could have really had your back and gotten the job done. That might actually set them back rather than you being a leader to propel them forward. Okay? We're going to keep it moving. We're just going to go through a quick review. Be in tune with God, and we've discussed several reasons why. Be called and committed to do the assignment and the leadership opportunity that you have embarked on, and that is 2 and 1. Hold your frustrations, because those frustrations, it causes resentment and it scatters the sheep. It scatters the people. When you gossip, when you talk about people, it scatters. It does not build, and it does not help to get the will of the job done. And so, as leaders, you never want to abandon your leadership by being petty and going back, getting on the level of the people that you're called to lead. You never want to do that. And so you have to stay elevated, and you're going to take some hits and you're going to take some blows, but that's for you to take in your quiet time with the Lord to say, God, this was such a frustrating week, or goodness gracious, I'm having such a hard time getting him to understand the simplest things with homework. And then allow the Lord to whisper in your ear the instructions, not just for yourself, but for the people that you're called to lead. Okay? And also mastering the art of confrontation, so that we will allow time to be the best resolution, and so that in addition to that, we will also not attack the person or attack their character, but we will attack that behavior. And we want to say all of these things as leaders, because if you are a go-getter, if you're the type of person that makes it happen, you want to know those weak areas that stops you from making it happen. And if the way you confront people sends your ship off course, if it pushes back the will of God, if it pushes the assignment 10 years behind, then you want to get in there and address that weakness, address that area that is causing your leadership to suffer. Because when your leadership suffers, your outcome suffers. Okay? Your resolution suffers. The potential suffers. And that's what we don't want as leaders. So the 5th point is, as we just stated, choose not to abandon your leadership. And why do we put ourselves through this? Why do we go through the regime of knowing all of these things to improve our leadership? We do this because it is bigger than us. So even when you start a course, okay, and you might be tired, you might be in a marriage for 10 years and you haven't seen the progress that you wanted to see. You might have a business and it's just, still underwater. It's not going in the direction that you would have it to go. And you're in tune with God, and God has not told you to abandon it. And then you've been called to do it. That goes back to our 5 points. And you might be tired. You might have a child that you are taking care of that is disabled, and this child will be with you for the rest of your life. You might have a job that nobody recognizes you. It might seem like it's dead end. It's not going anywhere. Everybody else get promoted. You're not making enough money. Why do we stay on board, on task? What do the tired do when the tired gets tired? It's not that you're not a fighter. You don't mind fighting. You've been fighting for years, but you haven't seen the results that you wanted to see. What do you do when the tired gets tired? And guess what? A thing always starts out great. Even relationships starts out great. You start out grateful for the job. You start out, ready to run the business and conquer the world. You're going to school and it's taking you longer than you thought it would take. You started out ready with extra notebooks and extra pens and showing up to class on time. But over time, that excitement has dulled out. Over time, what looked like it was a joy and a blessing has slowly began to come into a burden. Well, number one, we have to renew our minds and change our thinking. And remember the day when we wanted that job. Remember the day when we wanted that husband. Remember the day when we were planning baby names for that baby. Remember the day when we registered for school and all the dreams that we say we would accomplish when we graduated. Go back and remember the days that you were in love with that God-called assignment. You have to renew your mind. And number two, we have to realize that in these assignments that God have called us to do, we have to withhold nothing. There is a beautiful song out there called Withholding Nothing. We have to withhold our will, withhold our selfishness, withhold our needs, withhold our dependencies on the people, withhold those things and give it all up. You have to throw yourself wholeheartedly into your assignment. And a lot of times we get frustrated because we're not getting our way. But it is not our will or our way. It is the Lord's way. And number three, we have to realize when the tired gets tired, that this thing, this assignment is bigger than us. You're holding on to that marriage because you have other people in your marriage. You have generations of people in your family. I apologize, in your family that has never been married before. And what you're doing is you're breaking that curse in your family. And you're being that example, that leadership example to say that people can get married and people can stay married and people can wait to have their kids in wedlock. You're being that example that these other people are looking at. And that's why when we wonder, where is my leadership opportunity? You have your leadership opportunity. Look around. Take advantage of it. These assignments is bigger than us. Why are you holding on to that business? Because that God has not told you to get rid of. You're holding on to it because you're breaking the generational curses of a lack of entrepreneurship. You're breaking that curse and you're opening up that door, this door, just like this door right behind me. You're opening up that door so that other people in your family, in those generations to come, can look back and say, look, we had a business owner in our family. And if they can do it, then I can do it too. You know why you're going to school? Because you are a leader. And you know why you have to hold on even when the tire gets tired? Because people are watching you. You're breaking that generational curse in your family where people don't graduate, people don't go to college, people are not educated. You're breaking that so that people years after you, or after you're long gone, years after you've left this place, can say, look who made the difference. Look who showed me that marriage does work. Look who showed me that business entrepreneurship can make it. It can make it if you work it. If you work it, it'll make it for you. You're gonna, you're setting an example that the people can be college educated. You're setting an example that you can watch your health. You don't have to be, 50 or 60 and just giving up. That can be your stride. So while you get out there and pound the pavement, working out every day, it's not just for you, but you're breaking the curses in your family to let people know that healthy eating and healthy living, it is possible. We don't have to have diabetes. We don't have to have high blood pressure. We don't have to have all of these health curses connected to our family, generational, curses of things. That's why we fight. even with tears in our eyes, when our back feels like giving out, when our eyes show signs of sleeplessness, even after moments of hard down depression where you fought and you did all that you can do, still get up and fight some more, because you are a leader and people are watching you. And years from now, people will be talking about you, how you made your marriage work, but with the help of the Lord. How you kept the business afloat with the help of the Lord. How you battled diabetes and you won with the help of the Lord. So the generational curses can be broken off of your family. So as a leader, it can be proven and shown that you did make a difference. I challenge each and every one of us today to look to take advantage of every leadership opportunity that God has given us. And I ask you all right now to do that homework that I stated earlier. Don't think I forgot. If your friendships, if your relationships, if your job, if your ministry, if all of those things, if your marriage, if you're being a mother, being a friend, being a co-worker, if those entities reflected your leadership, what would it look like? Thank you all for visiting here with me this afternoon. I love you all to pieces. And remember, do live blessed, not just for yourself, but for the will of God, that it might be done, so that his kingdom can be established and it can come right here, right now on earth, using you as the vessel. Why not you? God bless you. Have a great day. Live blessed. Thank you and good night.